Welcome back to episode 2 in my Piggy series. Now, I just want to say that if you've been struggling with the first part, or maybe in the future episodes, your game doesn't work for some reason, probably, or most likely due to the fact that you have typed it out incorrectly and you haven't noticed that you have made a typo, then I have created on my website a FAQ, frequently asked questions section. I'll leave a link to it in the description, and I'll probably be answering some of your comments with this link to the page, because there's some great answers to the most frequently asked questions, such as my status bar isn't working, and I can confirm that it does work because I have actually followed the tutorial myself, and yes, it does work. So make sure that you have put your status value in replicated storage and you've given it the name status. Make sure that you are calling your intermission function from your game logic script, that you've supplied the number of seconds to count down from, and you have not put a space between the function name and the brackets afterwards. You also need to make sure you've got the capitalization correct. So for example, a lot of people have been saying status.value but in lowercase. You can't do this. You have to have a capital V for value. And this is the sort of thing that the script, it might not say that you forgot to capitalize something. So you need to make sure that you've got your capitalization just as I have done it in my video, okay? Because a lot of people will just go straight to the description, say it didn't work when it does work, and they've just not capitalized something, or they've made a typo but they haven't realized it. So you really need to check your script over to debug it. But do check out this page on my website for more information on how to fix those bugs if you've got one. I'm just trying to give you the best learning experience possible so that you can create your Piggy game with ease. I know there's also a lot of people who want to know how to make their custom Piggy avatar. I will be uploading a separate video showing people how I made the Piggy character. But today we will be choosing the Piggy. We will be loading in that avatar to the Piggy's character so they look like the Piggy, and also teleporting them to their little hideout room before the round starts, then teleporting them into the round after 20 seconds so that they wake up, and finally we will activate the doors. We will make the doors work so that you can click them to open them up and move around the map. The reception to the first video has been phenomenal. You guys have been loving it. We got nearly 20,000 views in the first 24 hours, which is absolutely incredible. So if you are enjoying the series so far, don't forget to like the video and click the subscribe button. Much appreciated. Now let's get straight into the second episode. So if the player does not have in menu in their character or in their player object, then we're going to insert that player, their player object, into the contestants table. And now, after that for loop has finished running, our contestants table should be full up of all of the players that are ready to play. So it could look something like this. So we've got 3 players, player objects, not names, because it's actual objects in game.players. So Alvin Blocks, Shadletsky, and Nako88. There are 3 players, for example, that are in the game. Now we can choose one of those players to be the Piggy. So let's create a function inside the round module, and we're going to call it choose Piggy. So again, you've seen it before, function module.choose Piggy. And then the parentheses on the end, and then the end at the bottom. Now, very, very simple. What we're going to do is we're going to pass to this function a table, and that table is going to be the contestants. So let's just call it players. Okay, you can call the argument whatever you want. It's the data that is passed to that argument variable there. So let's just call the function. We can say choose Piggy, and then we're going to pass the contestants table, which now will be full up with all the players in the game. Then let's go back to the round module, and now because our players are going to be that contestants table, we're going to do the same thing again that we did with the map. So we're going to firstly create a random seed. You can call it whatever you want. I'm just going to call it random obj, and that's going to be equal to random.new, creating another seed. And then what we're going to do, we're going to choose a random player to be the Piggy. So we're going to choose a random item out of that table. So local chosen Piggy equals the players table. And then we're going to select with the square brackets, again, random object, colon, next integer, and it's going to be between 1, comma, and however many players there are, so hashtag players. And that's going to pick a random player, a player object. So it could be, for example, Alvin blocks, game.workspace.alvin blocks, their player object. So then what we need to do is we need to return that object back to the script. So return chosen piggy. And we've now just chosen our piggy. We're returning their object back to this function. So we have to have it as a variable. So local chosen piggy. Let's say local chosen piggy equals round dot chosen piggy, and that's calling the function to choose a random piggy. We're passing the contestants, and it's returning to us the object of the chosen piggy. So chosen piggy is going to be an actual player in the game that is in that contestants table. Now we want to separate that piggy from the other contestants because, for example, we want to teleport all of the contestants to the map 20 seconds before we teleport the piggy. So we need to separate them. So what we're going to do is we're going to remove the chosen piggy from the contestants table. So the only people in the contestants table are going to be the people that aren't the piggy, okay? The other players. So we're going to use another for loop. We're going to loop through all the contestants in the game. Okay, and so for IV in pairs, and we're looping through the contestants. If the player object, V, is equal to the chosen piggy, so if the current player that we're looping through is the same player as the chosen piggy that we just chose, then we're going to remove from the table contestants, we're going to remove the object at the index I, because remember I said the tables have indexes, so the first object is going to be index 1, this is going to be index 2, this is going to be index 3. So we're going to, if we're looping through the third player and we found out that they're the piggy, then we want to remove from the table the third object. So I is going to be 3. So we're removing the third object from the contestants table using table.remove. So again, what we're going to do is we're going to loop through all of the contestants in the game. So this time we're not looping through game.players::getPlayers, we're looping through the contestants because we've now got our list of players who aren't in the menu. So we're going to say for I, V in pairs, contestants. We don't need to use getChildren because it's an actual table object, whereas getPlayers will convert the players into a table itself. And because the in pairs loop will only loop through a table. So think of it as we're looping through all of these players here in this table. This is an imaginary table, and the players in it could be different, of course. So I is going to be their index, because each object in the table will have its own index, like its own number. So this is the first object, so I would be 1. This is the second object, this is the third object. So the index is just the number of where the object currently is in the table, so this would be the second item, and V is the value, so it would actually be game.players.alvinblocks or game.players.shadletsky. So for that player, which is going to be V, we need to see if V is equal to the chosen piggy. So if they are the piggy, then we're going to remove them from the table. So table.remove, we're going to remove from the contestants table their index. So if they're the third player, we're going to remove from the contestants. If they're the third object in the table, we're going to remove the third object from the table, because you can't just remove a certain person from a table. You have to remove their index. So that will remove them from the table. Okay, so we've looped through all of the contestants, checked to see if they're the piggy, and if we have found the piggy in the contestants table, we're removing them, because we only want the contestants that aren't the piggy to be in that table, because we've now got our own reference to the piggy in this chosen piggy variable. Okay, next we're going to dress up the piggy to put them in their nice piggy outfit. So we're going to create another function in the round module. It's going to be very, very simple. So I'm calling it module.dressPiggy, and I'm then passing through the chosen piggy because we need their player object so that we can change their character. What we're going to need to do is firstly get that character for the piggy out of server storage. So local character equals game.server_storage, and then we're going to say .piggy clone like that. So if you want to have a different piggy outfit, then you will need to source your own piggy piggy like NPC character like this. I will have a video explaining how you can create your own piggy character and how I made this one. Check the description for that. So follow that video if you want to learn how to make your own piggy. But we've got this template one which does look like the piggy that I showed at the start. So we're cloning that NPC or that character out of server storage. Then we're going to give it a name. So character.name. I'm going to set that to the name of the chosen piggy. So if the chosen piggy is Alvin Blocks, this character is going to be called Alvin Blocks. Then we're going to have to set the current piggy's character to be this new one here. Okay, this new one that we just created as a variable. And when we set the character, it's basically setting up all the movement, all the camera stuff, so that that character can move, okay? And then we say character.parent equals workspace. The order that you do this in is very, very crucial, because you have to firstly clone it and change the name. Then you have to set the player's character to be the new Piggy character, so that all the camera scripts and everything can go in there and start up, and then you put the character in the workspace. So it's kind of just respawning you, but as the Piggy this time, because we've changed what your character looks like. And we've changed it to this Piggy model, and we've created a clone of it so that we can use it again. Now that we've done that, we can call it from the game logic script. So we can say round.dressPiggy, but we need to actually pass through our chosen Piggy player, okay? And this will dress the Piggy up. Okay, watch this. We're going to go into the game, we're going to test it out, we're going to see if it works. Okay, so it says next round starts in 1 second, 0 seconds, and it has to be me because I'm the only player in the game, but it has set my character to be the Piggy, okay? And the reason I fell out the map was because it has respawned me, and it didn't actually teleport me anywhere. It didn't put me on a normal spawn. That's because we need to teleport the Piggy to be somewhere, to actually go to their little hiding room, and that's what we're going to do next. So we're going to create another function inside the round module. So we're going to say function module.teleport Piggy, and again we need to pass through the Piggy that is going to be teleported. So we'll just say player, the player that is going to be teleported. We could have called them Piggy, but it doesn't really matter. So I'm going to say if player.character, because we first need to check that they have a character, in case they've left or they've died or whatever, and the character has been destroyed for some reason. And then, but by the way, player.character is like their model in the workspace. So then we can set their walk speed to begin with, because we want to make them slower than the other players. So player.character.humanoid.walk speed equals 14. 16 is the default, so the other players will have a walk speed of 16, whereas the Piggy will be a little bit slower. And then we're going to give them the bat. We're going to give them their bat, which they can hold. So local bat equals game.serverstorage.tools.piggybat. If you have changed your bat, make sure that you've put the name here as something different. My one is by default called Piggybat, so make sure that you've got it right. If it says something like Piggybat isn't a valid member of tools, or tools isn't a valid member of server storage, make sure that you've actually ungrouped the kit correctly, so you've got your folders like mine. So you've got the tools folder in server storage. So game.serverstorage.tools.piggybat : clone. We want to make a clone of that bat, and we want to put that cloned bat.parent, we're going to put it into their character. When you put a tool into a player's character, like this, it makes them immediately equip it instead of putting it into their backpack. If you put it into their character, they will immediately start holding it. Then, we need to actually teleport them, don't we? So we're going to say, if player.character, find first child, humanoid root part, just to make sure they've got it, and because in some cases they might not have a humanoid root part. It's basically a part in your character which you can change the position of, and that will move the entire player. Player.character.humanoid root part.cframe. What we're going to do is we're going to select a random spawn. Sorry, no, we're not. We're going to put them into the waiting room, aren't we? Now what we need to do is we need to set the C-frame, which is position with a rotation, of the humanoid root part to be inside this waiting room, where the Piggy will wait whilst the other players are in the round. So inside of this waiting room, I've created a part called Piggy Waiting Spawn. So we're just going to set their C-frame to be the same as this part, so they get teleported into this room. So back to the round module, we're going to say player.character.humanoid root part.c-frame equals game.workspace.waiting room. Make sure it's called waiting room, you don't change the name of it, else it won't work. .piggy waiting spawn.c-frame. But then just to make sure they don't get stuck in the ground, we're going to position them about 5 studs off the ground, or above that part. So game.workspace.waiting room.piggy waiting spawn.c-frame plus vector3.new 0, 5, 0. That's going to add 5 studs in the upwards direction to that C-frame position. So they're going to be teleported to the C-frame. C-frame is basically position the position value with the rotation of that spawn. And then we'll get teleported there. So let's go ahead and test it out. We're going to go to the game logic and we're going to say round.teleport piggy. Again, we're going to pass in the chosen piggy variable because that variable is the player that has been selected. And we can always reference that so we know who the piggy is. Let's go ahead and test it out. Alright, 5 seconds, 4 seconds, 3 seconds, 2 seconds, 1 second. We should get dressed as the piggy. And boom, look at that. We are put into the room with our piggy bat, which is automatically being equipped. Awesome. And of course, if you want to learn how I made this piggy bat and scripted it, you are going to want to check out my video, which I'll put in the description, on how to make the bat. We're also going to need to animate this bat so that when you click, you'll be able to hit people with it. But the only limitation is that we can't share animations with you guys, so I'm going to need to teach you how to make your own animation. We'll probably do that later on, but at the moment it will work fine without an animation. Okay, we're making great progress with this Piggy game so far, so if you're enjoying it, please do leave a like on the video, and if you haven't already, please do subscribe to my channel for more Roblox scripting videos, because this series took me ages to create. I worked out for 7 days straight making this game from scratch for all you guys, rigorous testing and everything, so I really appreciate all the love and support you've put on the video so far. Much appreciated. So next thing that we're going to do is we're going to teleport all of the other players, all the contestants, into the map. So to do this, we're going to need another function in the round module, and it's going to be called teleport players. By the way, make sure that you've saved your project so far by pressing Ctrl S or Command S on the Mac, just in case anything happens and your project might get destroyed or not saved. Now you can see I've created the function module.teleport_players, and I've got two arguments. I've got the players, so it's going to be a table of all of the contestants that we're going to need to teleport, that we're going to send. We also, though, need to send another table, which is going to be the map spawns. So the map, the chaps that we've loaded, is going to have a folder inside of it. Every single map needs to have a folder called player spawns, with parts put in different locations where you want a player to spawn, okay? So we're going to need to send a table of all of these spawns inside of that folder to our function, and we'll send that when we call the function very, very soon. But just imagine that the map spawns is a table full of part objects, which we can set the player's humanoid root part C frames to, just like we set the piggy's humanoid root part C frame to that teleport room. We're going to set it to a random one of those map spawns. So again, this is very simple. We just need to loop through all of those players using a for loop. So for I, v in pairs. And in fact, by the way, did you know that the I and V values don't have to be I and V all the time? You can change them to whatever you want. Just know that the first value is going to be the index. The second one, however, is going to be the object that you're looping through. So in this case, the player. So you could call it whatever you want. So you could call it player if you wanted to. So for I, player in pairs, players do, because we're looping through that players table. We don't need to get children because it is currently a table object. And then we're going to see if they firstly have a character. So if they have a character and they're alive, then let's create a variable for that character. So you don't have to keep saying player.character all the time. Now, we need to check if they have a humanoid root part. So if character, find first child, humanoid root part. I said before, humanoid root part, you use that find first child just in case it isn't there and it won't cause an error. But if they do have a humanoid root part, then we can teleport them, of course. But before that, let's just firstly set their walk speed. Player.character.humanoid.walk_speed equals 16. If you want the players to have a different walk speed, make it a higher or lower value, but I recommend 16, which is the default anyway. It's just good to set it to 16, because if you have been the piggy last round, then we'll set you back to default speed. Then we're going to change your humanoid root part C frame. So player.character.humanoid root part.C frame, and this is where the magic happens. So remember I said that map spawns is going to be a table of all of the different spawn parts. So we can just say map spawns, and then in there, in square brackets again, because we need to choose a random one, so a random number between 1 and however many there are, we are going to create that random object again. So we're going to be a little bit sneaky, and we're going to firstly just copy a little bit of code here. We're going to copy this rand next integer. Let's put it in here. and we need to create our random seed again, don't we? So local rand equals random dot new. Okay, so now that we've got our rand, which we just created, we can do next integer to choose a number between 1 and the number of not chapters but map spawns. Okay, so we're choosing a random map spawn part here, and we need to get the C-frame property of that spawn, don't we? Because it's the position of that spawn. Plus vector3.new 0 10 0. Okay, so this is just placing the player 10 studs above that spawn part, and the reason it's 10 studs and not 5 studs is just because I've tested it and some players would still get stuck in the ground, whereas the piggy wouldn't. But you can mess around with these values. It's just the number of studs that you're placed above the spawn point, which you will fall down onto, so you don't get stuck. So that will teleport all of the players to a random spawn in that spawns folder. Okay, we now just need to call this function from the game logic. So we can say round.teleport players, and we just need to pass in the contestants to begin with, but also the folder of spawns, don't we? So to do this, very simple, we just need to get our cloned chapter. So clone chapter, and we'll say dot player spawns colon get children. Okay, so if you get an error, it's probably because, and it's to do with your teleport players, it's probably because you haven't added this player spawns folder into your map. Really important that you add this folder into each map called player spawns. Has to be spelled correctly with the capitalization, with all of your player spawns inside of here. Make sure they're anchored, make sure that can collide is set to false on them so that you can't collide with them, and it's also recommended to make them transparent. What we can do is we can do a little check, say if cloned chapter colon find first child player spawns, then just to check if you have that folder in there, we'll put this teleport players line in there, and we'll say else warn fatal error, you didn't add a player spawns folder into your map. End. And if you've forgotten to put your player spawns into your map and you start playing it, and if you check the output and it doesn't find those player spawns, it's going to print out that it couldn't find the player spawns, and that will just prevent it from erroring. This is called error handling. It's useful in programming where if you might make a mistake somewhere, you think so, you could make a mistake where you forget to put the player spawns folder in there. Instead of it causing an error, we can check to see if that folder's there first using find first child, which won't error if it doesn't find it. But if it because if it doesn't find it, then this condition will be false. So the else statement will run, and so it will warn you that you didn't add a player spawns folder into your map. So you can just check the output, and it should help you with your debugging if you find an error. But just make sure you have that player spawns folder added in there. And by the way, just because of testing, I'm going to change the length of the intermission down to 8 seconds, just so it gives us enough time to get into the game, but also so that we don't have to be waiting all the time that we test it for a new round to start. And remember, don't worry if you have these errors in the output, it is because we haven't coded those parts yet. So round starts in 0 seconds, and obviously I'm not going to get teleported because I'm the piggy, I won't get teleported to the map. Now, if you want to test the game with more than one player, so 2 players, for example, if you want somebody to be the piggy and somebody to be a player to test what it's like for both, you will want to open up a test server. Now, a test server will open up a server window and also 2 players, player 1 and player 2. If you can have up to 8 players, and the more players you have, the more players you're controlling, but it can take more of a strain on your computer. Now, if you are going to do a test like that, I recommend putting the intermission back up to a number like 30, because it can take up to 20 seconds to load this server, by which time you only have 10 seconds left on your intermission. So let's open it up, and let's control a piggy and also a player to see what happens to both of them. Because you're going to want to be testing this game a lot, but you're also not going to have, you might not have enough people on hand to keep testing and publishing all the time. So here, you can see we have player 1 and player 2. So one of them will get chosen to be the piggy, that piggy will get removed from the contestants table, and then the other player, or players, if you had more than 2 players, would get teleported to the map. Brilliant! So The player on the left, player 2, has been teleported to a random spawn in the map, whereas the piggy has been teleported to his little hideout whilst they get started. Now, obviously, we haven't scripted the round yet to teleport the piggy back, but that's something that we'll be doing next, the really exciting part. And by the way, what a lovely map this is. Smash a like if you're enjoying it, and don't forget, you guys are getting this map for free, so shout out to my friend Linda for building this map. Much appreciated. Okay, brilliant. So we're almost ready to begin scripting the main round loop. But before that, we need to create a function which will insert some tags into the players, so that from other scripts, just like the in-menu tag, which was able to tell us whether a player was currently in the menu or not, we need to insert tags for the contestants and also the piggy, so that we can check in other scripts where we don't have access to the contestants table or the chosen piggy variable, because remember, those variables in that table is only accessible from this script. So we need to be able to tell if a player is the piggy or is a normal contestant from other scripts. For example, in the piggy bat script, you would need to tell whether the person that you are touching, that you've clicked with your bat, is a contestant, or whether if a person steps on a trap, is that player the piggy? If they are, then we won't slow them down, but if they are a contestant, we want to stop them right in their tracks. So we need to insert a tag called piggy into the chosen piggy, but we also need to insert a tag called contestant into the other contestants that are not the piggy but are also playing the game. So to do this, we're going to go back into the round module where we create our functions, and we're going to create a function called module.insert tag. Okay, so drop a line, let's get this end in here, and in this function, well, we're going to need to firstly pass through the table of players that will get the tag. So we'll just say, I'll say contestants, although it could, when we do it for the piggy, we will just pass a table with just the piggy in it, okay? So that's going to be the table of players that will get the tag. And then we need to have the tag name that we're going to give to them. So when we call the function, not only will we supply the table of players who will get that tag, we're also going to supply the name of the tag so that we can specify whether we want the tag to be called piggy or contestants. All that's left to do is to loop through every single player in that contestants table and give them the tag. And that's similar to what we've done before. So we've got another for loop here. So for I, comma, player in pairs. Remember I said the player value can be whatever you like. It used to be V, of course. So we're looping through the contestants table, and then for every single player in that table, we're firstly going to use instance.new to insert a string value into the game. We're giving that tag, we're setting its name property to the tag name argument, and then we're putting the tag inside the player's object in game.players. So other scripts will be able to see if they've got that tag just by looking at their player object and doing a quick find first child check to see if there is that tag inside their player. And if they have the piggy tag, then they will be called, we'll know that they're the piggy. If they have a contestant tag, we'll know that they'll be the contestant. And obviously, they will not have both. We'll only give them one tag. And that's what we're going to do next, because we need to fire this, we need to trigger this function, we need to execute this function from the game logic script. So very, very simple. We're going to say round.insert tag. Firstly, going to call this function for the actual contestants that aren't the piggy. So we'll just pass the contestants table that we've got in this game logic script, which we've already inserted the players into up here. We can pass through those players, and then the second argument, as I said, will be the name of the tag, and that's going to be contestant. Okay, so not contestants, contestant, and it's going to be as a string because it's text. So we've done that for the contestants. Now we need to do that for the piggy. So just the same thing again, round.insert tag. But this time, as I've said, because we need to pass a table as the first argument, because that's what we manipulate in the round module, we treat it as a table, we need to firstly create a blank table, but inside there, we're just going to put our one player, which is going to be the chosen piggy, because we only want to give the piggy tag to that one player, the Piggy. And the second argument, the name of the tag, is just going to be Piggy. Now, if you go and play the game after your intermission, I'll just make that 5 again. What if you looked in the game.players and you looked at your player, you would either get the contestant tag or you would get the Piggy tag, okay? So you can see that a new round is starting in 2 seconds, and if we look at the Explorer panel on the left in the server window, you can see that in player 1, the Piggy tag was inserted into their player, and the contestant tag was inserted into player 2. So let's imagine that we are looking at we're in a different script. We need to quickly check to see if a player is the Piggy or whether the contestant. Well, we can easily tell, can't we? We can see that player 1 on the right is the Piggy and player 2 is the contestant. But we've got those values which will tell us whether they are the Piggy or not without even having to look in the game. And obviously because of the scripts, they can't just look and tell whether you're the Piggy or not. That's why we need to have those tags to tell the other scripts whether you are the Piggy or not. And it's worked perfectly. So all of the contestants will get the contestant tag and only the Piggy is going to get the Piggy tag. But they're not going to have both. Because we are giving the Piggy tag to that chosen Piggy, and then all the other contestants that are still in that contestants table will only be getting the contestants tag. Brilliant, we've got to the good part now. We're about to start coding the actual round script, so which will begin the round, and then we'll have all that good stuff, the countdown from 10 minutes, the releasing the Piggy after 20 seconds, and the detection for things happening, so detecting when there are no players left or when everybody's escaped. So that's what we're going to do right now. And again, we're just going to call a function from the game logic script which will kick off the round, and we'll do all of the coding inside of our round module. So let's create another function, and this function is going to be called function module.startRound. Okay, so let's add the end in here, and there's a couple of arguments that we're going to pass to this function. We're firstly going to pass an argument giving us the length of the round. So that's going to be the length in seconds. Just going to add a little comment there so we remember. So we've got the length. We're also going to need to tell this function who the Piggy is, because we're calling this function, and inside of this function we will need to be checking things like, is the Piggy alive, have they died, etc. So we're going to need to pass that Piggy through to the function, because obviously this function is running inside the module script, and we can't just access the variables and such that we declared in the game logic script, so we have to pass them to the function, okay? And the last thing that we're going to pass to the start round function is going to be the map that we're currently playing with. So chapter map. Okay, so what we'll do is, firstly, we're going to create a for loop. And if you don't know what a for loop is, we used it in the intermission. A for loop is going to count down from the length. So if the length was 10 minutes, well, 10 minutes we know is 600 seconds. Because it's 60 seconds times 10. So we're going to count down from 600 to 0. And we're going to have a wait 1 second in that for loop. And what it's going to do is going to count down all the way from 600 to 0. And when it hits 0, it's going to end. So it's perfect for things like game loops. So to create this for loop is very, very simple. We're just going to say for I, which is our countdown variable, equals. And we're going to go from the number that we're going to count down from, which is going to be length. We want to count down to 0. And we want to decrease by 1 each time. We want to decrease I by 1 every single time. And I is going to be the time left. And we're going to say do. And now, what we can do is we can change the status. Remember the status up here, which when we change it, it gets the GUI status bar changes to its value. We can set that status object's value to be the length. So we could say I. Now what this would do is it would go 600, 599, 598, 597, 596, and it would count down from 600, which is a big number. But what if we wanted to count down like an actual clock, saying, 10 minutes, 9 minutes, 59 seconds, 9 minutes, 58 seconds? Well, what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to convert it to minutes and seconds. Now, luckily, that's not too hard, but before we do that, let's just add our wait 1 in here, so that it delays by 1 second every single time it runs. If we didn't have that wait 1, it would just, it would go down to 0 straight away, because there's nothing delaying it from counting down and decreasing by 1, so it would just immediately go down to 0, and that would be the end of the round. So this wait 1 will delay us from decreasing 1 from the I value for every 1 second. So really, it's counting down from 600 to 0. But to do the whole minute seconds conversion, we're going to have a little function. We're going to declare it here. I'm going to call it. It can be a local function because we're not going to be using it in the game logic script. We're just using it in the module script. So local function 2ms, so 2 minute seconds, and we're going to pass to that function the number of seconds that we want to convert. And then all we need to do is just return back, and then what we'll do is, I'm going to show you, I'm going to copy it and put it in here. So what this will do is it's going to take your number of seconds, and then do this calculation out. I think it's dividing by 60 mod 60, and then it's also doing it again to work out the number of seconds. So the part I've highlighted is working out the number of seconds. It is doing a modulus calculation on the number of seconds, and it's then dividing the number of seconds by 60 mod 60 to find the minutes. And then what it's doing is it's going to format it as a string, so that you've got your minutes over here and you've got your seconds over here. So it's going to return a string that, instead of looking like this, looks more like this. Okay, so it's going to convert it to minutes and second form. Now, instead of saying status.value equals I here, we're going to say 2ms and put the I in the brackets. We're going to pass it to this function up here, and that is going to convert it into minutes and seconds. Okay, so if you want to get this symbol, you press Shift and 5, okay, to get the percentage symbol. I'll also put that function in the description so you don't have to type it out for yourself. But now that we've done that, it will look like a proper timer, and it will count down from 10 minutes down to 0 when it runs out. And only then will it finish. When it's finished counting down, will it break out of this for loop, and it will end the function. So if we were to call from the game logic, if we were to call round.startRound, and let's do 600 seconds, as I've said, and we had some code underneath it, such as a print hello, well, this hello would only print once the function has finished, and the function will only finish when the for loop finishes. So when the for loop gets down to 0 after 600 seconds, is it going to finish the function? So only then will hello print. So the game logic script is going to be stuck on the round.startRound function. It won't go any further than that until that function has finished. So basically when the for loop is finished. And if you went and checked this out, you would see that it would just keep counting down all the way from 10 minutes down to 0. Now, I will also say, if you're testing the game at this point, make sure that your intermission is long enough for the players to join the game. And if you don't click the play button in time, before that intermission runs out, if you click the play button, if you don't click the play button before that, you're going to get an error, because it's trying to find players to teleport, but there's 0 players available because none of them have clicked the play button yet, so you'll get an error. So if you do, just retry it and make sure that you've clicked play by then. Now, brilliant. So both players are spawned in, and you can see that the timer is now counting down. Now, we could sit here for 10 minutes and we could see it count down all the way to 0, but you can trust me that it will work, okay? If you wanted to, what you could do is you could go back into the round module, and you could change this wait 1 to be a much smaller number, and then it would count down a lot quicker. And don't worry about the bug which I just mentioned if you haven't clicked the menu play button in time, because we will be adding some logic code later on which will check to see if there's enough players ready to start the round. But you can see here that it's counting down brilliantly. We're doing it much faster, and it's counting down from 10 minutes all the way down to 0. You'll see it go down to 0. But we have got the map now, and some of the map doesn't work yet. So, for example, we don't have the things like the doors working yet, or things like that, but we will have it working, don't worry, and you can see it's gone down to 0, so that's good. Now, speaking of the doors in the map, I'm just going to show you how they work, and I'm going to bring the Chapter 1 map out of the replicated storage to show you, because if you want to make some of your own maps, that's fine, but you just need to listen to this. Now, inside of each map, you need to make sure that you've got a folder called Doors, okay? And you've also got to make sure you've got a folder called Items and Player Spawns, as we said. We'll get to the items later on, but the Doors folder is absolutely essential. You need to have all of your doors in that folder, okay? And the way it works is that when the map is inserted, we are going to use this door module here. And what this door module will do is, by the way, all of your doors, if you want them, sorry, no, never mind. All of your doors, just make sure that they are, can collide is true and anchored is also true, okay? And the same goes for these doors with the keys. We'll get to those later on as well. But your doors, you need to make sure you have that folder in the chapter, in the model of your map, okay? Because in this door module, what happens is I've created a function in this module, and it's called activate doors, okay? And what you do is you pass your door folder in the map to it, and then what it will do is it will loop through every single door in that folder, and if it's a key door, then it will set up everything you need to detect whether a key touches the door, and when the key does touch the door, then it will open the door, okay, if it's a locked door. If it's not a locked door, then what it's going to do is it's going to insert a click detector so it can be clicked, and then it's setting up an event so that when you click the door, it will be able to swing open, okay? So I'm going to show you how you can set this up. So if you go into the game logic script, all you need to do is make sure you have the door module inside your game logic script. We're then going to need to require that module, just like we did with the round module. So local door, you can call it door if you want. I called it door, so local door equals require script.door module, because again it's inside of the game logic script. And then we need to set up all of these click detectors and events for every single door in the map, so that it will be listening out and waiting for somebody to click the door, so that when you do click it, it swings open. Now all of that has been taken care of in the module. We just need to set it up so we can tell the script which doors to activate. So to do this, we're going to say, after we have inserted the map, which is, where's the map insertion? Here it is. So when we've said, when we've inserted the cloned chapter, we're then just going to do a quick check to see if there is a doors folder. So if clone chapter find first child doors, then we're going to say door, which is our module, dot activate doors, and we can say clone chapter dot doors, because that's the folder, isn't it? That's the folder which has the doors inside. And we're not going to say colon get children. We're not going to say doors colon get children, because we're actually looping through it here, and so we're saying get children actually in the module. So we just need to pass the folder where the doors are stored. So when the map's loaded, it will be the clone chapter, and it will be clone chapter find first child doors. So it's looking for that doors folder inside your map, which is it's why it's so important for you to have that folder called doors in your chapter. So many people will come to me saying they've got an error, their doors aren't working, and then they will realise that they haven't added that doors folder, and they haven't got their door parts inside that folder. It's even more important to have the actual doors themselves in your doors folder, and that doors folder is inside your chapter map model, okay? So when we say door to activate doors, that is going to set up all the click detectors, all the events, which will open the doors when you click on them. Now let's just do an else in case you forgot to add that folder, and we can just warn that, that there's a fatal error, you forgot to add the doors folder to your map. Okay, and that's just in case you add a future map and you forget to add the doors in there. But now, if we go and play the game, okay, here we are. So next round is going to start in 2 seconds. It's going to select who the piggy is. It's going to teleport us. But if we have a look over here, you can see if we hover over the door now, it is clickable, and that's because the click detector has been inserted into the door, and that allows us to be able to click things, and the event has been set up with the click detector so that when we click it, it opens the door and it swings it open like this. Okay. Now, there are some doors which do look a little bit funny when you open. This one looks realistic and fine, but the one that we tried first, it kind of looks like it's not opening and closing in the right direction. Now, I think if you have a tinker with the script, if you can have a look in the door module, but I think it's to do with the way that some doors are rotated, okay? Because some of them are perfect, but what the door module does is it finds the hinge of the door, okay, and it's on one side for every single door. So I think if you mess around with the rotation of the parts of the door parts, you'll be able to figure that out. But it is a minor thing. But the good thing is that the doors will open. Okay, and of course you can look into creating your own door module if you like, but I found that this one is good enough. Okay, it does the job. So we've got doors that open and doors that close, but when they're closed, you can't walk through them. You have to open them. And the good thing with these doors is because they're click detector based, the piggy can get stuck. So if you close the door on the piggy, well, they have to first unequip their bat so that they can click it, and then they have to open the door, and they have to equip their bat again. So it's a nice way to kind of slow the piggy down, in my opinion. So there we go, we've just done the doors. So as I've said, you guys got the door module absolutely free from my Piggy Kit, so I hope you enjoy that. Now, after 20 seconds have passed, we want to teleport the piggy into the round as well. So we're going to do that in the round module in the start round script, in the start round function. So what we'll do is inside the for loop, we need to check to see if 20 seconds have passed. So to do this, we can say if I, which is the current type, the counter, so like which keeps track of how long's left. Remember, it's still in seconds because we're only converting it to minutes and seconds when we're setting the value of the status. So I itself is still going to be the big number, so like 600, 599, 598. So we can check to see if I is equal to the length minus 20. So if the length is 600 seconds, then we want the piggy to be released after 20 seconds. So they would be released after, think about it, so 600 seconds is the length, so it would be 580. So when I is 580, which is 600 take away 20, then we want to teleport the piggy. So we're going to do then, drop a line, and inside of here, we just need to do the teleport players function. But instead of saying round, because we're actually in the module script itself, which contains all of these functions in the module table, okay, we just need to say module.teleport players. Okay. Now, the reason we had to pass the piggy in this function is because we need to teleport the piggy, don't we? So we need to say, we need to create a blank table, because remember, teleport players, it's thinking that we're going to send a table of lots of players, whereas just for this one, we're sending just the piggy. So we need to put the piggy in their own table. And the reason we're not using the teleport piggy function is because that function only teleports the piggy to their waiting room, whereas now we want to teleport them to the map. So we're going to say the second argument that we're going to send, if we look at the teleport players function, it wants the table of all the spawns. So we're going to have to send the player spawns, just like we did when we teleported the players, but we're going to have to say chapter map, because that's the map that all the players are on and that's been loaded, which we were going to pass to the start round function. Chapter map dot player spawns colon get children. And remember, that's why I said it's so important that you have the player spawns folder in your chapter here, okay? Because we're looking right at that player spawns chapter, and if it isn't there, if it isn't in your map, it's going to cause an error because it's looking for it, but it cannot find it. So make sure you've got your player spawns folder, your items folder, and your doors. And as I said, we'll get to the items later on in the video. So that's going to teleport the piggy to the map so that they can start killing people. We're then going to set the status value to say piggy has woken up, so that the players know that the piggy is coming after them. And we're going to do a 2-second delay. So wait 2 seconds, and that's just going to keep the status on the screen before it gets updated to the time left again. And obviously this won't happen again because the eye is constantly counting down, and it will never be 580 again, because it will just go 580, and then I will be 579 because it decreases by 1 every single time it loops around. So it will only run once, and it will only run this if statement when the time left, is 580, or 20 seconds, or the length take away 20 seconds. So after 20 seconds have first passed, because the length could be 1000, it could be 30 seconds. It's up to you, and that's what you do. That's what you write when you start the round. So when we start the round, we also need to pass the Piggy, so chosen Piggy, and also the cloned chapter, because that's our map object. Okay, let's just check we got the order right. Yep, so the Piggy and the chapter map. It's really important that you get the order right with your arguments. So the chosen Piggy goes second, the length goes first, and the cloned chapter goes third. The reason it's in that order is because it's the order that we've written our arguments in. Okay, so now the Piggy will get teleported to the map after 20 seconds. Now I'm also going to just go back into the round module, and I'm going to change this wait back to 1 second so that it goes at normal speed. And if you want to, you can test it out. Now you'll see that the next round is going to be starting very soon, and so the player should get teleported in straight away. And you can see the Piggy is being held in this little room until 9 minutes and 40 seconds. So let's see if the Piggy does spawn at that time. And whilst we do that, we can let my player on the left get a head start, but the Piggy should be on his way. Here we go. Let's see if he gets teleported. Yes, he does, and there we go, we can see him. Now, the Piggy bat isn't going to work yet because we haven't scripted that. We're going to script it in a future episode. There are some things that it depends on, so it won't work yet. And also, I know the animation isn't very good. That's because you're going to have to create your own bat animation because we can't share them. So I thought, what's the point in making it detailed if you're not going to be able to copy it because you're going to replicate it yourself. So I'll show you later on how you can make your own animation in a future episode. And that's why I said earlier, the Piggy Kit will not give you the finished game because you need to watch along to see us write the code for it and the extra stuff. So we're going to leave it there for the second part. Now, I do recommend that you go straight to the next part, which is going to be episode 3. The thumbnail is going to be on your screen right now in the middle, so go ahead and click that. And I will see you in the next part. And don't forget to check the link in the description to my website FAQ page if you've got any problems or bugs.